Have you ever looked into his eyes and felt like something was missing? Even when he's right there, holding your hand, smiling like everything's fine, but deep down, there's a silence between your hearts, a space you can't quite fill, like he's only halfway with you and halfway somewhere else. And maybe you've asked yourself, what am I not giving? What am I missing? But what if it's not about doing more? What if it's about understanding something that no one ever told you? It's good to be here with you again. If your heart feels tender right now, I want you to know mine does too. This space is for women like us, women who love deeply, who wants to be chosen, not just needed. So let's talk, not about tricks, not about rules, but about his secret obsession, the one you've felt hints of, but may have never seen clearly until now. A few years ago, I was with someone I thought I truly knew. We laughed often, we shared routines. I knew his coffee order by heart, his favorite old songs, but I never quite touched the place where his soul lived. There was this invisible wall, and I couldn't stop trying to climb it. I became more loving, more patient, more understanding, but still I felt like I was orbiting around a part of him that refused to open. It wasn't until one quiet evening, curled up in my own silence, that I realized I had been loving him from my center, but I had never found his. Here's what no one tells you. Men don't fall in love because you're beautiful or kind or loyal, though all of that matters. They fall in love because of how they feel about themselves when they're around you. It's subtle. It's primal. It lives deep in his masculine core, in a place we rarely see from the outside. He wants to feel needed, but not in the way we've been taught. Not needed for money or stability or logic. He wants to feel like your hero, not a superhero, but your unique, irreplaceable source of emotional impact. He wants to feel chosen for the way he shows up in the world, to feel that his presence isn't just welcome. It's essential to your emotional life. Think of a moment when you shared something vulnerable and he suddenly leaned in, more focused, more alive. It wasn't what you said. It was the invitation in your voice, the space you created for him to rise into something only he could bring. That's not a weakness. That's the most sacred form of feminine power. And yet, so many of us have been told to dim that signal, to not be too much, to not need reassurance, to be a cool girl, a chill woman who never asks for that much. But here's the quiet truth. He's waiting for you to need him emotionally, not in a way that drains him, but in a way that invites him into purpose, into protection, into presence. I remember when I first understood this, not with my mind, but with my body. I was reading some words that didn't tell me what to do. They showed me how to feel differently. It was like being handed a key I didn't know I'd lost. And suddenly, the silence I kept feeling in him began to melt. He spoke more, not in words, but in actions, in attention, in eyes that stayed longer. And I realized this wasn't about fixing anything. It was about aligning with something that had always been true, just buried. It felt like walking into a room I'd been locked out of and hearing him whisper, "I've been waiting for you." We're taught to measure our worth by how little we need. But what if the bravest thing you can do is let yourself be felt? When you stop trying to prove your value and start inviting him into your emotional world without apology, something sacred happens. You become the mirror he didn't know he was looking for, the one that reflects not just who he is, but who he wants to be with you. That is the feminine mystery, not manipulation, not perfection, but magnetic honesty. And once you learn how to open that part of yourself, the way he looks at you will never be the same. Maybe you're here because you've been wondering why love sometimes feels so close and yet so far away. Maybe you've felt exhausted trying to hold it all together, wondering why it's so hard to feel chosen, not just convenient. I want you to know you're not alone, and there is a way in. Not by changing yourself, but by remembering what you already carry, a softness that's strong, a heart that listens, and a presence that invites love to rise. If this spoke to something inside you, you can stay with me. There's more I'd love to share when you're ready. And if you feel it's time to explore what I discovered that day, that quiet key I found, the invitation is always open. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You are already enough, and the love you long for is not as far as it seems. I'll see you again when your heart is ready to hear more. Until then, trust your knowing and let it lead you home. Thank you, friends.